Hey everyone, today we're diving into an incredible tale filled with unexpected twists. Imagine a pastor going through a near-death experience, and during that journey, he runs into none other than the devil himself. What he learned about the battle between good and evil is something you simply won't believe. But before we jump in, why not comment below with where you're tuning in from? And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. You won't want to miss stories like this one. Whenever I prepare to recount this experience, there's a moment of stillness. I pause, take a deep breath, and close my eyes, ready to relive it all. I'm Noah Clark, and I'm a pastor based in Charleston, South Carolina. Everything I'm sharing has utterly transformed my perspective on life. Just the other day, my wife Lily turned to me and asked, "Noah, don't you ever get tired of telling this story?" I smiled gently at her and replied, "How could I?" Each time I recount it, I grasp a little more of what really happened. Writing isn't something I've pursued. My path has always been about ministry, offering spiritual guidance, and being there for monumental moments in people's lives, whether it's weddings, baptisms, or funerals. But this experience has compelled me to speak out about it. I can still picture the day I first shared it. A few weeks after the event, I was chatting with my close friend Marcus, who's also a pastor. We were in my church office, and as I shared my story, I noticed the mix of intrigue and concern on his face. "Noah," he paused thoughtfully, "are you absolutely sure it wasn't just a dream or maybe the medication?" "Marcus," I responded, "if it had merely been a dream, it wouldn't have completely reshaped who I am. What I encountered was more tangible than this very conversation we're having." I get it. Skepticism is natural. Before living through this, I'd probably have doubts myself. But I assure you, every detail I'm about to share is true, deeply felt by me on a fateful autumn night in 2017 during my near-death experience. Let me clarify, I'm not here to sway anyone's beliefs. I haven't penned books or given lectures, and I certainly haven't started any study groups or movements. Many have suggested I should do so, but I've declined. They say, "Your story could help so many." But for me, it's about sharing my experience as honestly as I can. Sometimes during Sunday services, someone will ask, "Pastor Noah, do you genuinely believe you saw what you saw?" It's not about believing, it's about experiencing something myself. Let me take you back to a moment in my life when I felt completely adrift, struggling with what it meant to be a spiritual leader. I often say it took a close brush with death for me to truly start embracing life. That's why I want to share this with you, not to preach or persuade, but to give you a fresh perspective on life, death, and all that lies in between. The year 2017 kicked off like any usual year, but it quickly evolved into a testing time during my ministry as the pastor of Harbor Light Church in Charleston. I'd always aimed to support my congregation, but around that period, something shifted. It felt as though my words no longer had the weight to resonate with people. I recall one Wednesday morning vividly. After the service, Mrs. Alvarez, one of the church's most devoted members, approached me. I could see worry etched on her face. "Noah, you seem different," she said, concern lacing her words. I managed to force a smile, but deep down I knew she was right. There are times we all need a moment to reconnect with ourselves. Nights were particularly tough. There I was, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, with Lily peacefully asleep beside me. I couldn't shake the feeling of losing my grip on my role as a guide for others. Floods of questions overwhelmed me. How could I speak about faith when my own beliefs were riddled with uncertainty? How could I provide guidance to others when I was grappling with my own doubts? One Sunday stood out, a sermon that felt like it vanished into thin air, leaving no impact. Afterward, I spotted Caleb Bryant, one of the deacons, in hushed conversation with several board members in the hallway. "We need stronger leadership," I caught Caleb say. "Pastor Noah seems to have lost his way." Those words landed heavily on me, like a gut punch. That evening, I found myself sitting alone in my home office, finally picking up the phone to reach out to Marcus, a friend and spiritual guide whom I trusted. "Marcus," I said when he picked up, "I think I might be losing my church." There was a pause on the other end before he responded. "Noah, you're losing something much more crucial than just the church. You're losing yourself." Our chat stretched on for hours. Marcus had this remarkable ability to cut through the layers of my doubts and anxieties. "You're trying to be the pastor you believe they want," he pointed out, "rather than the one God intended you to be." I felt lost again, prompting me to ask, "How do I discern the difference?" To which he replied, "Perhaps you're posing the wrong questions. You know those moments that stick with you forever? For me, that night is burned into my memory as if it were just yesterday. It all began after a pretty stressful meeting at the Harbor Light Church in Charleston. The rain had stopped, but the streets glistened under the streetlights, reminding me of the insecurities I was grappling with. It was around 10 p.m., and surprisingly, traffic was light for a Thursday. Seeking a distraction, I turned on the car radio and found an old gospel tune playing softly. I couldn't help but hum along as I drove. Stopping at a red light, I glanced at my phone and noticed a text from Lily. "Don't delay. I made that dinner you like." A grin broke across my face. At least home felt consistent. Little did I know, everything was about to change. Moments like these are etched in our minds with such clarity. With the light turning green, I was still holding my phone, smiling at Lily's message, while Amazing Grace played softly in the background, an irony I wouldn't understand until later. I glanced at the speedometer. It read 45 kilometers per hour. Just then, a flash caught my eye. Out of the corner, I saw headlights rushing toward me. It all happened in a heartbeat, but every detail is crystal clear. The black SUV barreled through the night, the tires screeching on the slick pavement, and I could see the panic on the other driver's face, illuminated by the glow of his dashboard. Then everything went downhill. A deafening crash echoed in my ears, metal crunching against metal, glass exploding, and tires screeching. The impact felt like being hit by a freight train. My body slammed against the seatbelt with incredible force. The airbag erupted in my face, and for a split second, everything went blank. Suddenly, a metallic taste filled my mouth, and warmth spread through my chest. My head throbbed, and an unbearable ringing drowned out all other sounds. In that chaotic moment, something bizarre happened. Time seemed to stretch out like a film stuck on slow motion. It was as if life had hit pause, and I was thrust into an unimaginable reality. Imagine a rush of vivid moments from my life swirling around me, but they weren't typical movie flashbacks. I recalled my father encouraging me in the summer of '85, "Keep your eyes on the horizon, Noah. Don't look down." Then came the memory of meeting Lily at theology college, her shy smile brightening our introduction. I can still feel the warmth of holding our son for the first time, my hands trembling with a mix of joy and fear. Yet, alongside those sweet recollections, there were tougher times too. I saw my mother's passing, turmoil with Lily during our early marriage days, and nights steeped in doubt about my path. Each moment, joyful or painful, felt like an essential part of my journey. Amid this torrent of memories, I became aware of distant voices cutting through the haze. "He's stuck in the wreckage. Call for help," someone shouted. I wanted to respond, but my voice wouldn't cooperate. Warmth trickled down my face. Was it blood or tears? The ache was sharp, but it started to fade, felt like it belonged to someone else. "Pressure is dropping. We've got to get him out of here," another voice urged. And just then, a strange sensation washed over me, as if I were floating, my body lighter than air. The pain eased, replaced by a profound sense of tranquility. I heard a paramedic's voice repeat, "We're losing him. Initiate procedures." But his words grew fainter, as though he was moving away, or perhaps I was. My final thought was a silly one. Lily's going to be upset I missed dinner. Then everything shifted. The change from life to whatever comes next wasn't what I had expected. It didn't feel like falling asleep or blacking out. It was more akin to awakening from an incredibly long dream into a reality that felt more tangible than anything I'd ever known. In that jarring first moment, I found myself looking down at my own body, trapped in a tangle of wreckage. The scene was chaotic, police lights flashing red and blue, paramedics moving with urgency, and bystanders recording the moment with their phones. It was surreal to see myself like that, every detail sharp in my mind. The cut on my forehead, blood pooling on my light blue shirt, and the wristwatch that Marcus had gifted me for my last birthday, still ticking away, showing 10:47 p.m. I watched as the sound of metal crunching filled the air, as hydraulic tools worked to pry open the remnants of the car. It was chaotic. Firefighters were shouting to make way, while a paramedic monitored vital signs. "We need to hurry. He's not stable," one of them called out, urgency clear in his voice. "That guy's bleeding out," another chimed in, frustration evident. Through the commotion, I felt remarkably calm, as if I were just a spectator in a drama unfolding before me. When Lily arrived on the scene, her face was etched with worry, and I could see a police officer gently keeping her back. "Ma'am," he said softly, "please allow them to do their job." I could hear her desperate screams searching for me. "Noah! Noah!" I wished I could reach out and tell her I was okay, that I was beyond pain now, but the words wouldn't come. It was then that I sensed an inviting pull, not harsh or aggressive, but gentle, like a warm breeze nudging me forward. Suddenly, a tunnel appeared before me. Unlike the dark abyss I'd imagined, this passage was filled with soft light that felt warm and welcoming, like the first sunbeam breaking through a chilly morning. The colors were unlike anything my eyes had ever encountered. Imagine every hue you've ever known, mixed with a few you've yet to learn about, all swirling together in beautiful harmony. Drawn in, I didn't walk or float, but rather felt as if I was being guided softly, as if every part of me inherently understood the path I needed to take. As I moved deeper, I could hear a melody, not through my ears, but resonating within my entire being. It felt like the universe itself was singing, and I asked myself, is this what it means to die? In that moment, whatever this experience was, it brought me no fear. Then I sensed a presence beside me, a distinct warmth that assured me I wasn't alone. Later, I would learn that this presence was Uriel, but for now, all I felt was an infinite kindness, an otherworldly wisdom surrounding me. "Don't be afraid," it said, not in sounds but as a thought implanted directly in my mind. "You are safe." My thoughts drifted to Lily and our child, to Harbor Light Church, but even those memories felt different, like I was beginning to grasp a grander truth about everything. As I traveled through the tunnel, an overwhelming sense of peace enveloped me. All my fears, pains, and worries began to fade away. I wasn't losing my identity. Rather, I was remembering who I truly was. "But my family?" I asked the comforting presence beside me, seeking reassurance. "Everything is exactly as it should be," it answered, and deep inside I felt a profound certainty that it was indeed true. When people are curious about what Uriel was like, I always find myself pausing. How do you even put into words someone whose essence feels more like pure light than physical form? It's like trying to describe the vastness of a rainbow to someone who's never experienced color. But let me give it a shot. Right off the bat, his eyes caught my attention, if you can even call them that. They were like two deep, ancient galaxies, brimming with swirling stars. Gazing into them, you could almost see the entire story of creation unfolding. There were no pupils or irises in the conventional sense, just this vibrant, pulsating light that seemed to hold all the knowledge of existence. "Welcome, Noah," he greeted me. But his voice, that's a tricky thing to explain. It wasn't really a voice at all. It felt like the very air around us shimmered with meaning. Each word resonated not just with sound, but with emotions, memories, and an understanding that went deeper than surface level. "Am I dead?" I found myself asking, surprisingly calm about it. Uriel smiled, not with lips, but in a way that radiated light. "You're in the interval between moments," he explained, "in the space that exists between heartbeats." He led me into what I can only describe as a room of light. This wasn't your average room. It felt like the walls, if there were any, were made from liquid light, always shifting and alive. "There's something I need to show you," he said, and in an instant, I was surrounded by memories. But not just any memories, my own, viewed in a completely different light. I revisited the time when I was 7, sharing my lunch with Billy Cooper, the boy everyone else ignored at school because of his differences. In that moment, I didn't just see the act. I felt the ripple of kindness it created that encouraged Billy to hold on to hope in the world. Every act of kindness generates ripples that go far beyond the initial moment, Uriel shared. Then came the harder memories. The times I let fear guide me away from Jennifer, my first girlfriend, and the pain that caused her. I remembered judging members of my congregation, unaware of their struggles. I faced moments of pride, anger, and pettiness. "I'm embarrassed," I admitted, There is no shame here, Uriel reassured me. It's all part of learning. Suddenly, something brilliant happened. I began to perceive not just my actions, but their reverberations through time. How a simple kind word to a stranger had averted a suicide I never knew was looming. How seemingly small advice had transformed someone's life in ways I couldn't have possibly imagined. You know, it's fascinating to think about how our lives unfold. I found myself reflecting on my past, really digging deep into the moments where I felt like I had messed up. Noah pondered this for a while, and then suddenly, Uriel was there, surrounding him with warmth and understanding. "You're only viewing a slice of the whole," he said gently. And just like that, everything shifted. In front of me, I began to see things differently. The times I stumbled and struggled weren't just failures. They were stepping stones to something greater. Each misstep in my journey somehow cultivated empathy within me. Uriel pointed out that, as humans, we often chase after the idea of perfection. But true beauty, my friend, lies in understanding our imperfections, he said, his tone full of kindness. So there we were, Uriel and I, revisiting pivotal moments in my life, not to judge, but to really appreciate how everything connected. I was starting to see this incredible pattern, where each experience wove together into a larger narrative. Curiosity got the better of me, and I asked him why he was showing me all this. "Because you needed to witness it," he replied. "Not just your individual actions, but how each one threads into the lives you've impacted and those who've influenced you in return. Life is not a series of isolated events. It's a tapestry where everything is intertwined in ways we often overlook." For the first time, it clicked. Every single decision, every blunder, and every triumph is part of a grander design. We're not put on this earth to chase perfection. We're here to grow, learn, and evolve. Then Uriel said, "There's still something else I wish to show you." With a gesture I can't quite articulate, the scenery shifted dramatically. If I lived for a millennium and penned countless volumes, I still couldn't capture the essence of what unfolded before me. Think about colors that don't exist in our usual spectrum, or a melody felt within instead of heard. How can one express a type of beauty that surpasses our understanding of beauty? Here's my attempt. Imagine a garden, but not just any garden. Visualize a realm where each flower vibrates with its own energy, and every leaf shares a tale. The grass beneath you dances in harmony with the universe. The very air, if you could call it that, felt like liquid light, infused with pure love. Overcome with awe, I asked, "What is this incredible place?" "Some refer to it as paradise," Uriel explained. "Others call it heaven. Names can be confining, but let's dive into this glimpse of a different realm." Imagine observing figures, not quite people, perhaps more like souls, gracefully gliding together in a seamless dance. There was nothing to weigh them down, no grief, no anxiety, no suffering. Each presence radiated a unique glow, akin to a distinct fingerprint. "Look over there," Uriel gestured toward a cluster of souls, seemingly lost in a profound connection. Every one of these souls has its own designated space here, a unique light frequency, their own melody contributing to the universe's grand symphony. As we moved closer to one of these radiant beings, joy surged through me. I recognized my grandmother, whom I had lost years ago. "Noah," she beamed, her smile illuminating everything around her. "It's not your time yet, my dear," I managed to whisper, overwhelmed by emotions deeper than anything I had known on earth. "I've missed you so much." "I've always been by your side," she assured me. "Remember that day when you almost abandoned your ministry? That gentle breeze you felt? That was me, nudging you to stay true to your path." Uriel observed our exchange, his face seemingly glowing with delight. It's impossible to describe a being made of light fully, but he said, "Each soul possesses their own garden, a personal space that mirrors their essence. This isn't a destination after death, Noah. It's a state of being you come to when you realize your true self." As we continued this ethereal journey, I glimpsed scenes pulled from the most vivid of dreams. Radiant cascades of light harmonizing with celestial tunes, trees adorned with leaves like miniature suns, and flowers swaying to an unseen melody that resonated from all directions. "Why are you showing me all this?" I asked Uriel, curious yet humbled. "Because you need to understand there's so much more, far beyond what you perceive. You're preoccupied with trivial earthly concerns, forgetting the essence of who you really are," he replied. In that moment, a profound peace enveloped me, so encompassing that I wished to linger there indefinitely. It felt as if every atom of my being had finally come home to the universe. "Can I stay?" I asked, uncertainty creeping into my voice. Uriel's gaze, filled with the weight of entire galaxies, met mine. "You still have a significant journey ahead, Noah. Your time on Earth isn't finished." "But how do I return after experiencing this?" I questioned, feeling the contrast of normal life and the beauty I witnessed. "How can I just go back?" "It's not about living a mundane existence," Uriel responded. "It's about embracing awareness, recognizing that each moment on Earth offers a chance to infuse a bit of this light into your life." My grandmother approached me again in that place. "Remember, dear," she said, "paradise isn't just a destination, it's something you carry within yourself." At first, the change around me was subtle. The warm golden glow of paradise slowly morphed into something else, something colder, a contemplative silver light. Uriel guided me to a realm that seemed to linger in perpetual twilight. "There's someone you need to meet," he said, his tone now more serious. "This being can help you grasp the balance of the universe." As I realized who it was, I felt an instinctual urge to retreat. After all, I had spoken about him countless times as a pastor, always casting him as the embodiment of evil. However, the entity that stood before me defied everything I had ever preached. Lucifer wasn't the monstrous horned figure depicted in medieval artwork. Instead, I saw a being of profound and somber beauty, radiating a light that was neither warm nor cold, much like starlight on a serene night. "Welcome, Noah," he said. His voice resonated like distant music, filled with ancient wisdom and a deep sadness. "I presume you have many questions." "I don't understand," I stammered, still trying to catch up with the reality of the moment. "Why am I here? Why are you here?" His smile was not the cunning grin I had expected. Instead, it was a look of comprehension. "You've spent years depicting me as the villain in your narratives, haven't you?" he asked, with no hint of blame in his tone. "It's easier to see the world in terms of black and white, to categorize everything into good and evil," I replied, grappling with my own thoughts. "Oh, Noah," he said gently, "if only you knew how many souls have been lost for thinking like that. My purpose has never been to embody evil. I exist to provoke questions, sowing the seeds of doubt that ultimately lead to growth." Uriel remained by my side, a quiet presence, as Lucifer continued. "Have you ever stopped to consider why God permits my existence? Why not obliterate me if I'm as wicked as claimed?" That question hit me powerfully. In all my years of studying theology, I had never contemplated this. Lucifer continued, "Without choice, there's no growth. Without questions, evolution remains stagnant. And without doubt, true faith is unattainable." He moved effortlessly, gliding through the air, gesturing to the surroundings as images began to manifest, people confronted by their struggles and challenges. Imagine a scene where a man stands before an image, reflecting on his faith while wrestling with doubt. Every time he confronts these questioning moments but still chooses to believe, something remarkable happens. His faith strengthens. Isn't that more precious than a faith that has never been put to the test? As I tried to wrap my mind around this, I asked, "So you don't corrupt souls?" Confusion still lingered in my thoughts. With a surprisingly pleasant laugh, he replied, "Corrupt? No, I offer options. I lay out alternatives. What you choose to do with them is entirely up to you. Free will is humanity's greatest gift, but comes with immense responsibility." My mind wandered to the notion of evil. I struggled to articulate my thoughts, and before I could finish, he gently interjected, "Evil is merely a product of humanity. You often like to pin the blame on me for your own choices. It's simpler to say, the devil made me do it, rather than owning your decisions." His words resonated deeply, making me rethink how often I may have used that excuse in my sermons. Hesitating, I began to explore my purpose. I suppose my role is to act as a necessary counterbalance, the questioner, the one who encourages doubt, nudges you to make choices. Without that, what value would faith hold? What merit would goodness have without the option to choose otherwise? Suddenly, I sensed a change in the atmosphere, as if the universe took a deep breath. A light washed over me, so profound and pure that it felt like it was reaching into my very core. Unlike anything blinding, this light revealed clarity. It felt as though I was truly seeing for the first time. Then he appeared. How can one encapsulate the experience of meeting someone they've only preached about? It was surreal to realize that what I had thought was true only scratched the surface. Jesus, in his essence, was nothing like the familiar depictions. He didn't resemble the Caucasian figure with flowing hair and blue eyes, nor the unapproachable, serious being often portrayed. He was pure light and unadulterated love, emanating a presence so strong that it nearly brought me to my knees. Noah, he spoke, and the sound of my name in his voice was melodious, almost musical. You have been carrying a heavy burden. I felt like collapsing, or at least I would have if I weren't in such a strange form. Lord, I stammered, I feel like I've failed. I haven't represented you as I should. Then he laughed, a sound of joy that resonated through the cosmos. My son, do you really think I expect perfection? Do you believe I want my representatives to be flawless, untouched by mistakes or doubt? My heart reflected on my past proclamations and teachings. As I was sharing my beliefs, Noah gently interjected, prompting me to contemplate a deeper understanding. With an inviting gesture, Jesus opened what looked like radiant hands, and in an instant, we were witnessing various scenes from life on earth. I saw people grappling with suffering, engaged in conflicts, expressing love, and simply living their lives. How many of them think they must earn God's affection? He asked. How many believe that perfection is a prerequisite for being worthy? The scenes shifted before us. I watched as some individuals inflicted punishment upon themselves in a bid for atonement. Others were weighed down by guilt, and some even distanced themselves from faith, believing they were unworthy. But isn't that what the Lord desires? I questioned. That we aim to improve ourselves? I want you to grow, he said, but not from fear or a sense of obligation. Growth should stem from love, always love. Then Jesus revealed something that truly transformed my perspective. I realized that suffering isn't a form of punishment. Rather, it's an opportunity for personal development. Challenges aren't simply God's way of testing us. They are experiences crucial for our evolution. Why then, I wondered aloud, does the Lord not intervene more? Why do we experience such suffering? His response was infused with kindness. Noah, have you ever watched a butterfly struggle to emerge from its cocoon? If someone were to cut it open out of pity, it wouldn't survive. The struggle is essential for it to gain the strength needed to fly. His words resonated deeply within me. When you pray, he continued, I'm not here to take away your problems. Instead, I equip you with the fortitude to confront them, to navigate obstacles rather than eliminating them. But so many endure pain, I started to express my concern. Do you think I don't endure it too? His voice was heavy with emotion. Every tear shed on earth reverberates in my heart. Yet, true love honors free will. It allows for growth, even when it hurts to witness those we cherish struggle through hardships. We shared a moment of silence that felt timeless before he spoke again. You've been conveying a message of a God who judges, who punishes, who seeks perfection. But my purpose is to impart a message of unconditional love, of acceptance and growth through that love. I didn't come to condemn the world. Keep in mind, I came to offer life and a life full of abundance. How can I convey this? I asked, seeking guidance. By being authentic, he replied. Reveal your own struggles, your doubts. Show others that having faith doesn't mean lacking questions. It means having the courage to persevere alongside them. And most importantly, Noah, teach that true unconditional love is the most powerful force in the universe. It all started with a gentle prompt from Uriel. Noah, it's time. A deep ache lodged itself in my chest, if I could still feel it. I took a moment to glance back at Jesus, who wore a knowing smile. Your journey isn't finished yet, he said. You have so much love yet to spread. Returning wasn't as easy as leaving had been. Imagine jumping into frigid water after being wrapped in the warmest embrace. The first sensation hit me like a heavy blanket, weight pressing down on me from all sides. Then waves of pain surged, more intense each time. Distant voices started to sharpen into focus. Pressure is rising. We have a heart rate, Dr. Hoon, someone called out. The agony grew to almost unbearable levels. Inhaling felt like a battle, and with every heartbeat, it felt like I was being squeezed in a vice. I struggled to open my eyes, but my eyelids felt like lead. Mr. Clark, can you hear me? A woman's voice was calling. I wanted to respond, but my throat was constricted by something, a tube I'd later find out. Then I sensed a familiar grip on my hand. Lily. Her touch was immediate and soothing. "Noah, I'm here. You're going to be okay," she reassured me, tears in her voice. The days that followed in the hospital blurred into a haze of painkillers and constant testing. I couldn't shake the results. 3 broken ribs, a serious concussion, a fractured right arm, and a few cuts and bruises. Yet somehow I was still here. My doctor, Mrs. Alvarez, was astonished. "To be honest, Mr. Clark, we didn't think you'd pull through. Your heart stopped for nearly 4 minutes." Lily basically moved in with me. Every night she'd curl up in a chair beside my bed, squeezing my hand as I battled through the darkest moments. Our son, Caleb, brightened my room with drawings he made each day after school. Recovery was a slow crawl. Each physical therapy session became a test of will. Every small movement reminded me of the trauma I had suffered. But honestly, the toughest part wasn't the physical pain. It was making sense of what I'd gone through on the other side. One night, a week or so after I'd woken up, while Lily was rearranging my pillows, she asked, "Where did you go, Noah? When your heart, you know." I stared at her, catching the blend of worry and curiosity in her expression. "If I share, you might think it's the meds," I warned. She tightened her grip on my hand, encouraging me to go on. So in the stillness of that hospital room, I decided to open up a little about my experience, the light, Uriel, and everything that had come before. Noah Clark had a profound experience that changed everything for him, but there were parts he couldn't quite unpack yet. Too personal, too deep for that moment. Lily listened intently, tears streaming down her cheeks as he spoke. When he finished, she looked at him with a soft expression and said something that stuck with him. "You seem different, Noah. There's a light in your eyes that wasn't there before." As word of this miracle began to circulate through Harbor Light Church in Charleston, a wave of doctors came to see him. Each one brought a different scientific take on what he had gone through. They discussed things like oxygen deprivation, chemical hallucinations, and typical near-death experiences. He listened to their theories, nodding along, but deep down, he felt that what he'd experienced transcended any explanation they could offer. People from the congregation showered him with visits, flowers, and cards. Everyone was curious about his journey and wanted to hear what had happened. Yet in those early days, he found it hard to open up. He needed time to grasp what he had been through, to sort out his thoughts before sharing the full story. Returning to his everyday life, if you could even call it that, was a slow journey. 3 months after the incident, he stepped back into the pulpit, greeted by a crowd of familiar faces, many he hadn't seen in years. They had come to witness the pastor rumored to have returned from the dead. Staring out at all those eager expressions, Noah realized he could no longer deliver messages the same way. How could he speak of divine judgment after feeling such unconditional love? How could he preach condemnation after recognizing the purpose behind life's challenges? "Brothers and sisters," he began that morning, his voice still hoarse from the intubation. "Today, I'm not going to preach in the usual sense. I want to share with you what I've seen." Out in the crowd, he spotted Marcus, the deacon who had once doubted his leadership, seated up front with a look of intense curiosity. Lily stood beside him at the lectern, her hand occasionally giving him a reassuring touch. "For years," Noah continued, "I preached about a God I thought I understood. However, after what I've been through, I've come to realize I was only scratching the surface of who he truly is." He opened up about his experience, leaving out the most intimate details, but sharing enough to convey the crucial lessons he had learned. He spoke of the profound love he had felt and how the struggles we face shouldn't be viewed as punishments, but rather as chances to grow. A woman in the third row raised her hand, visibly shaking. "Pastor Noah, are you saying there's no hell?" she asked. He smiled gently in response. "What I'm saying is in our own lives, we often create our own hell, driven by fear and a disconnect from divine love. Reactions to my evolving perspective varied widely. Some of the more traditional members of the church were taken aback, while others found solace in what I was saying. I'll never forget the conversation with a young mother after one service, her eyes glistening with tears. She told me, "For years, I felt so guilty for questioning my faith. But today, for the first time, I feel I can honestly talk to God about my doubts. This experience really shifted how I approached counseling. When someone came to me in distress, I stopped offering cliché answers or quotes pulled from context. Instead, I opened up about the profound truth I had discovered. Each one of us is infused with a spark of the divine, and our trials are part of a larger journey of spiritual growth. Lily, more than anyone, has noticed the changes in me. "You seem more present," she said one evening. "Before, you always seemed anxious about the future, or how others might perceive you. Now, it feels like you're fully engaged in every moment." She was spot on. Life lessons have shown me that the beauty of this existence lies in its imperfections and challenges. Each morning, I rise with the intention to remember the light I experienced and the love that enveloped me. I strive to infuse a bit of that essence into the world around me. People often wonder if I worry about sharing my experiences, about being labeled as insane or dishonest. But you know what? After glimpsing that broader reality, I realize that human judgments simply don't hold much weight anymore. My purpose isn't to persuade anyone, it's to share my journey and the wisdom I've gained. One of the most significant insights I've had is that perfection isn't our goal. We're here to grow, to learn. Mistakes, failures, and moments of uncertainty are all part of the adventure. Most importantly, I've discovered that love, not the fleeting, conditional kind we often know, but a deep, unconditional love, is the only truth that genuinely counts. Now, when I gaze up at the starlit sky or watch the sun break each morning, I feel a profound connection to something much greater than myself. It's not just about belief anymore, it's about knowing. That shift has transformed everything. I often remind my congregation, don't strive for perfection, instead aim for growth. Embrace your doubts, they're stepping stones to a deeper faith. And above all, remember, you are far more than you realize, and you are loved beyond your imagination.